Welcome back to your No Malarkey Guide to Programming. This is Kalu, and if you guys were with us in our last video and in the previous one, then you've been learning the Kalu principle of learning new disciplines, and that's inductive reasoning, not deductive reasoning. That's a bottom-up process, not top-down. That's example-based and not rule-based. What does this mean? This means doing a lot of examples and not reading a whole bunch of rules to describe what you're doing, but actually doing what it is you should be learning. And through this, you can start gaining a pattern set, a heuristic set, which is building a knowledge of what set of patterns is required to do what. And this is really what's very important with programming. Why? Because programming is an iterative discipline. That means to understand one thing requires knowing another thing. So to be able to learn programming means you have to be doing a whole bunch of things while you don't quite understand what it means. But whenever you do that thing again, because you've gone to the later stage of a programming programming module or something like that, you've now understood the full circle, and you could revisit the beginning of the cycle to gain a better understanding of what it was you were doing when you didn't quite understand the full picture. So I've said too many words. If you don't understand what all those words means, then I'm gonna keep it simple. This should be accessible to my 8-year-old nephew who can write Python code. This should be accessible to my mother, whose age I won't disclose. She's as young as a spring butterfly, no matter what year it is. And this should be accessible to your grandmother, to all of us, your sisters, your aunties, your wives, to everybody. Because we're doing an example-based tutorial, all you got to do is write these codes. Don't worry about, I don't understand what this means. You just know that if you type this, if you type X, Y happens. And after you do this 5, 6, 7 times, then you can start querying yourself or questioning yourself. It's okay, what do these things that I'm writing, what do they actually mean? So let's get going. Last time in our video, we were able to write this section in this section right here, and it was able to render these 2 job listings with the title, the description, and this other title and description. And we did a great thing. We don't have these job listings rendered hard-coded in our template. Rather, they're being pulled from our database. And again, we can look at our admin and we can see that we have these 2 entries in our database. Why don't we add a 3rd entry? Let's say we are looking for a doorman. We need a doorman who can act as security for our hip hop hackathon events. Great, just like that. And once we save this, we can see we now have 3 entries in our database. But if we refresh, we're not getting the 3rd entry. We're just getting those original 2 ones. Why? Because in our HTML template, we just are saying add this section for our 1st and 2nd title, or for our 1st job listing, and then add this section for our last job listing. Now we're not gonna do, okay, add this section for our 2nd job listing, our 3rd job listing. That is too much. One, because we don't know how many job listings are in the database. The programmer in Facebook isn't saying, okay, put the 1st Facebook post here, the 2nd Facebook post here. You can imagine that they have a smarter way of doing that. And the way they do it is what's called a for loop. What is a for loop? You don't really need to worry about that. We're going to show you right now if you don't understand. But it is a way to repeat a set of instructions for as many times as you want. And for as many times could depend on the amount of items in a collection. What is a collection? A collection could be these job listings. It could be, we can see that we have a collection of job listings. And we can say repeat this for as many items we have in here. So repeat this set of code for each job listing in all of our job listings. And that's exactly what a for loop sounds like. So let's go ahead and type this. Enough talking, more typing. Write a curly bracket %, and we're going to say for job listing. And we for job listing in jobs listing. Sorry, in job listings right here. And we're going to put this N4 right here. What does this mean? This job listing, we can call anything. We call it listing, we can call it job, we can call it whatever. Let's call it listing. But this job listings, we have to call this a specified thing. We get this object from our views. As you remember, anytime that we want to pass information to our template, we must pass it through our views in what's called a context dictionary. And in fact, let's clean this up. This is a context dictionary, so let's create an object called context equals, And I'm gonna copy this right here, cut it, paste it right here, and then I'm gonna switch this to say context. That looks much better. It adds one more line of code, but it makes things more easy to read. And they say we want an empty line here. So our context dictionary passes information to our view, and we pass it this job listings objects using the key job listings. So I'm gonna copy this just so we have the same name and make sure that I didn't make a typo. Great. So for listing and job listings, and now I can use this listing, and it's going to represent each and every listing we have here, each and every object inside of this object job listings, which, as you remember, just represents all of our job listings in our database table. So now instead of doing job listings.first.title, I'm just going to do listing.title, and then listing.description. So if we have 2 listings in our job listings table, it's going to run this code 2 times. And the first time it's going to print the first listing's title, and then the first listing's description. And then the second time it's going to print the second listing's title and the second listing's description. So this code is run for as many times as there are objects or listings in our job listings table. And we will see here that we use each individual listing. So this listing, this listing, this listing, we use this name to describe it. And we can again call it any name we want. We can call it job listing, we call it job, we can call it posting, call it post. We're gonna stick with listing and make sure that these are listings as well too. So let's save that, and without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and refresh, and it should look exactly the same. Voila, it looks exactly the same, except it has this third job now. It has a doorman. So look at that. It has rapper, disc jockey, doorman. So congratulations, you've written your first for loop in Django templates. What are we gonna do next? I think this is a very good stopping point for this video. Let's go ahead and add just one more job. So we have a doorman, disc jockey, rapper. Let's say we need a promoter. So promoter, we need a promoter for the hottest hip hop event of the year, the hip hop hackathon bonanza. Yes. The promoter must be able to reach a variety of urban demographics and must have experience in various communities. Let's just write that. Okay, great. So let's save it and let's go back here, Control R to refresh, and we see this prompter. Oh, I had it as prompter. Why didn't no one say anything? How come no one told me it should be promoter? Good. So let's refresh that, and promoter. There it is. So I still have prompter in here. Promoter. And look how easy it is to now edit information in our template. That is beautiful. Great. Refresh and we're done. So in the next video, we've now hooked up our HTML template pretty well. You can add a whole bunch of job listings. The next thing we want to do is the only way we can add a job listing is through our admin. And only if you have admin privileges, if you're a super user, or if a super user creates a user for you and gives you, we can see we can create a user. And once we create a user, we can then, let me show you what editing a user setting looks like. We can then give them super user or staff privileges, which allows them to log into this admin site and go ahead and we can even give them specific privileges, like they can add a job listing, they can only edit a job listing, or they can get all privileges or permissions. If we give them super user statuses, it gives them all permissions. So that's really not an efficient way, though, of adding new job listings, unless we work for a company and we want only the people who are staff to be able to add job listings. But that's not the way Facebook works. That's not the way most of the crowdsourced web pages, where really the users, the people who add the most information, are just millions and billions of people across the world. So we want right here, we want just a little form. to where a user can add a job post. And we're going to do that next. We're going to write our first Python form, and we're going to do our first post request. And that's going to be exciting. So I'll see you guys at the next video. You're doing a great job. You guys are going to be great programmers in no time.